Like you said, they didn't even have to do a paperwork check on that dude. That dude was in the news. They made a documentary on him on Netflix. That was out there. So his time was rough.
Today, I am in the studio here in New York, and I'm sitting with Steve Purcell. He is an ex-CO, which is a correctional officer for those of you who have not been locked up. And I'm excited to ask this dude some questions. I think we're just going to jump right into this. Steve, thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks for having me, dude. I'm thrilled to be sitting with the famous JD.
Right on, man. I really appreciate you saying that. So, we have a lot of mutual experience. A lot of people don't understand how much mutual experience correctional officers and people who've done long periods of time of their life incarcerated have. We just might be on the different side of the badge. But let me ask you this. Do you understand from your experience the difference between an inmate and a convict?
Yeah, I would have to say, yeah, an inmate and a convict, the difference would be, inmate is institutionalized, a convict would be, this is their career, almost, you could say. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
I think one of the defining factors is that they live by a code. Mm-hmm. A lot of this new generation, I know that you see the new generation of people coming in. Mm-hmm. They're loud, they're all over the place, they're like a bull in a china shop. They don't conduct themselves with respect of the code that seems to be dying, like the, no women, no children, the no snitching. It seems like the new breed of criminal just has no actual morals or code that they live by, and that's more defining of an inmate.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you because guys coming in now, they think they deserve everything without, putting that work in. They want to walk in and be the shot caller. And a lot of these old heads will tell them good advice, how to survive, how to do what you have to do. And like you said, the code. This is how things operate. But the more and more inmates that come in like that, I'm here, I'm going to do what I want to do. That's what's ruining a lot of things too, for both sides.
And I think that from my perspective with it, it's the same with the new officers. It seems like a lot of the new officers come in with this idea that they're going to prove themselves, that they're going to make their mark. They don't understand how the balance works in the institution. There's got to be respect on both sides of the street. And, you see these officers who come in and they're constantly riding the people that you don't want to be riding, and they'll do disrespectful shit. And then they don't understand why they end up with something stuck in their side,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think a lot of that falls on the hiring process, at least for New York State, the hiring process, all the changes they made. I think because of the short staffness and all that, they'll just take it. You got a heartbeat? Great. Here's a uniform. Put that shit on and go ahead. I was bullied in school. I never really had a lot of friends, whatever. Now I get this badge and this uniform and I get a baton on my side. I'm going to be a big shot. Because I'll tell you, these new officers now do not fight their own battles. They'll talk that tough guy shit, behind a locked gate. But when it comes time for business to do work, you're still locked behind that gate. You're going to get that senior officer. You can't just walk off the street and, well, I need a job with benefits and all that. That's great. I respect you for that. That's wonderful. Get into it. Great. But in a sense, know what you're getting your shit into and be the same way all the time. You could tell me the best. Would you rather that CO that 1 week, yeah, hey, all right, delay, you're allowed to, we'll give you 15 minutes, don't worry, you get an extra. Or would you rather every day you knew what to expect from that same officer?
I've said it repeatedly. Consistency is the thing that I respect the most, because if you walk in on the unit one day and we can joke and have a banter and we're cool, then we're going to be cool. You walk in 3 days later and you're in a bad mood because your coffee was cold or you stubbed your dick on the fucking sink, you know what I'm saying? And you're trying to wrap me up for the same shit we've been doing every day for the last week, then we're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's unnecessary. I'm checking my entire life at the gate. You know what I'm saying? My family's out there. My kids growing up without me. I did the crime. That's all 100% on me. But I'm checking myself and I'm leaving that shit out of the equation because I understand that. I understand that's the business. If you're taking that career, you have to understand you got to leave your life and your bullshit at the gate because you're around motherfuckers who are in a bad situation. You're around motherfuckers that are volatile. Probably their mental health is fucked fucked up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Who is the scariest inmate that you've ever had to work with?
All right, so there's two. I think you'll appreciate this. I wouldn't say one was scary in the sense of his whole crime. He's famous. Ronald DeFeo. Okay, he's the Amityville Horror. That's who they made Amityville Horror after. I say he was the scariest because he was all of probably 5'4", as skinny as this pole, and he just had that look of the devil in him. You could literally look him in the eyes and just see like there was something. He just had that look. And I'll never forget having a conversation with him all over checking his pass. Where you going, to the clinic, whatever. And he would not talk. He would just look you dead in your eyes. And just like, that really like hit with me where I was like, yeah, this is, and I'm sure people think like it's got to be this 6'4", yard monster that's out there throwing weights around like it's nothing. That was one of the scariest. The most disgusting inmate I've ever had to deal with was a pedophile who would rape autistic kids, kill them, and bury them under the school. That was one of the most disgusting crimes, every person that I've ever dealt with in that place. Mm-hmm. It absolutely disgusting. And it was very well known because, like you said, they didn't even have to do a paperwork check on that dude. That dude was in the news. They made a documentary on him on Netflix. That shit was out there. His time, and he has an 88-something DIN number, so his time was rough. But he also played the poor me, I'm an old man.
How'd that work out for him?
I wouldn't say too well now. I think he's still locked up, but I would imagine he's having a pretty hard time, and rightfully so.
So let me ask you something. You are like a family man. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You care about kids. How do you reconcile with seeing a system that protects pedophiles once they get in there after they've ravaged and victimized children on the outs?
Well, that's one thing I absolutely have no patience for. The fact that some of these guys will come in here, especially as repeat offenders, and do a 1 to 3 bid. You just raped a family member and you're doing a 1 to 3 skid. There's something wrong with the court system there. Okay? And meanwhile, you got guys like in the 80s with the Rockefeller laws that get caught with something, you're doing 30 years, you're getting locked up. Listen, like you said, people make mistakes. I understand that. But get those people those services, and I don't care how much heat this catches me. That's not a disease, being a pedophile. That there's something seriously wrong with you. It's not a disease. Stop that. Don't be putting that on anything. You're a sick individual. You don't belong in the same. They should be put on an island somewhere. Honestly, they really should, and they could be amongst themselves. That's the whole disgusting part of this system. They do get protected. You could be a diaper sniper. I'm stealing your stuff, but you can be a diaper sniper, and eventually you could get all the beatings from your former, inmate, whoever's in the block with you. But eventually that shit's gonna wear off, and you're gonna have a comfortable bid, and that to me is not right. That you essentially ruined a whole life. To me, it's almost the same as murder, except that person, they're reliving that shit almost every day, and for probably the rest of their life, it's going to affect them in every aspect. Mm-hmm. And you can't take that back, just like you can't take back killing somebody.
Mm-hmm. So did you ever turn your back when convicts were taking out justice on pedophiles?
I'll tell you a story. I wouldn't say so much I turned my back, but I was in the yard one time, and there was a couple hundred inmates, and there was another rapo in a wheelchair playing the game because he thought that wouldn't touch, I'm untouchable with that. I'm an old, handicapped, fat, greasy white dude. And another former inmate happened to walk up behind him, dump him out of his wheelchair, and throw the wheelchair on top of him. Did I see it happen? Yeah. Was I so quick to get over there? Yeah. I mean, I still had a job to do, but I couldn't find the inmate that did it after. He just so happened to run into a crowd, and I just couldn't get to him.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. Does New York prosecute people for hate crimes for going after sex offenders at this point?
Not to my knowledge.
Good.
So we didn't really, unless they killed somebody, unless another inmate killed another inmate, that's really when they were going after them. And unless they got caught doing it, as far as like beating them up, or you never really.
They're not doing outside charges?
They're not really doing outside charges, for sure.
This is one thing that I really want to talk with you about. Do you see people in there getting mental health services, treatment services for substance use issues, anything that's going to make them better citizens when they come back out?
So I do. I see some of it. I think the biggest downfall was when New York State closed the mental health hospitals, because when that happened, a lot of those guys were put into the correctional system. Mm-hmm. So the correctional system now, they offer certain things, but again, you can only do so much with what you're given by the state itself. You can't help. If you have very limited resources, you're not going to be able to provide what certain inmates need. And like I said, a lot of guys know there's perks that come with that. If I say I'm bipolar, yep, I got bipolar, schizophrenia, all this, they know that's another way to play the game too. Yeah, I'm going to cheek my meds, and here I go, I'm selling them. I'm going to the yard, and I'm going to sell them. But I think there's a lot of things New York State can do. Like I said, the programs are there. I think it goes for both ends. It's got to click with, not so much for mental health, but with some guys. Do you really want this to be the rest of your life? You want to keep coming in bid after bid after bid? Or are you going to finally say to myself, especially with all these new type of inmates coming in. I call them kids because they practically are kids. Mm-hmm. A lot of these kids coming in, you're an older man, whatever. This is how you want to live your life. You want to keep constantly dealing with the bullshit, the cuttings, the stabbings, the gas getting dropped in the mess hall or the yard. That's how you want to carry out your bid, or as an inmate yourself, don't you want to go and try and help? And I get it's hard because, like I said, a lot of these guys they want to be the head blood. Yeah, I'm the head blood that runs this jail. I'm the head crip that runs this jail. But like, get back to what you were saying, New York State's got to step in and really analyze how they can differentiate the mental health crisis that's going on, and even, make the academy a couple weeks longer. Give the officers that training, because new things are coming out with certain mental health aspects. Even drug addict, give the officers the training instead of the basics.
How much time of your training was set aside for de-escalation, for mental health training? How much was there?
1 week.
1 week to learn all of that?
All of that.
Out of how much time training?
Our academy was 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
1 week of that is de-escalation. They teach you the tactics, how to talk. I forgot what it was called, something interview. But that mental health, somebody from mental health comes in, some bigwig in Albany comes in, waving their dick like who they are because they have a title, okay? And, gives you the run. It all is a week. That's what it runs down to.
Do you see the officers implementing those skills in actual real time in prison when these inmates are having mental health crisis and shit like that?
Some, yes. And I think some of maybe the newer officers, even some of the older officers, like I said, that sucked and were not good officers. I think they didn't realize, and they were scared. I think that's like a come to Jesus moment, like, oh shit, this is really happening. Like, now I'm panicking. Like, because you'll get some guys that were there forever, went to the academy 18 years ago. A long time ago. So they don't know, like, oh shit, and that could have been the first time it's happened in their career. Oh shit, this is really happening now. As far as the de-escalation, listen, man, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I went into where I was a brawler. No. If business had to be handled, business had to be handled. But I never wanted it to get that far. Like you said, You left all that shit at the gate. You had a family. You knew. So did I. You think it was easy? There was times you think it was easy for me to call, my significant other and be like, yeah, I just broke my hand today breaking up a fight. Like, that only carries on so long, too. So I think they just have to, something needs to be done. Somebody really, and it's not somebody that just sits in an office and pushes paperwork and has never actually did time.
We've got plenty of that. We've got plenty of people sitting in offices trying to tell everybody how things should run in a perfect world in an institution. But realize these people are coming back out to the community. It's a very small demographic of these people that are doing life. Mm-hmm. These people are coming home. Who do you want as your neighbor? And how do we get them? Where do you see that we can make changes to make it those type of people coming out?
They get programming in there. I think it needs the phasing out, okay? Because how do you tell somebody who just did a 25-year bid, because I've had inmates, perfect example, I've had inmates tell me, do they still have payphones out there? Do they, so it's more of, let's do more of a reintegration. And if you still need that help, there should be services there that provide that help for you.
Life skills.
Basic life skills.
How do I fill out a job application? How do I fill out for housing? You know what I'm saying? How do I go get my social security card so that I can get my ID from the DMV? These types of things that people are just tossed out. When I got out of Oregon, they handed me a check for $50. I didn't have an ID. They're like, good luck. We'll see you. You'll be back real soon. We're going to keep a bed for you. That was 2010. They haven't seen me since. Came real close, but, a lot of people, I had support that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people get kicked out of prison after however long they did, and they're just kind of told, good luck. Why do you think that is?
Because people don't, the system doesn't care. The system does not care. This is a money pit. You know why? Because if that person does reoffend, they're going to make more money now. Now they're going to make more money off of that same person. And they'll say, it's all about numbers too. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Do I think that there's still good people out there that want to help? Yeah, absolutely. It's just like there's always a bad apple and everything, but there's still those people that want to genuinely help because you don't know who your neighbor is. It might be Joe Blow who just did 25 for wiping out, a family. You don't know. So is that who you want next door who still never got that help or do you want somebody that is working programs, reaching out, getting the services that should be provided? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, like that.
Why did you step away from your position as a correctional officer?
So I stepped away because I couldn't deal with the politics of it, the bullshit of working with lazy guys coming to work knowing we got a job to do and you didn't want to work. Like that was one other major thing I could not stand. Like the job was not hard, man. Walk around, we'd walk around, do our count, and guys have a hard time with that. The inconsistency, the politics of if you kiss ass, you'll go far. That I'm not kissing nobody's ass. I'm here for a job, and honestly, it burns you out. I'm there sometimes, but some guys do it to themselves too. 16 hours a day, 6 days. You're getting stuck. You're missing birthday parties. You're missing, family events. You're missing a lot of shit out on life, all for that, to be shit on by not only society but some, the government itself, the higher ups in New York State. I believe the higher ups in New York State look at COs and inmates the same. They don't give a fuck about either side. They really don't. It's just because my position was filled probably before I even handed in my 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. They don't care. It's just very. The whole system needs a change. And I think that starts at the top. You need people that are going to that have walked those shoes and been through all those situations to put those policies in place that makes sense to somebody that is working it now.
I have had a lot of retired COs. I have a lot of retired law enforcement, a lot of retired COs, a lot of current COs in law enforcement that are on my channel that have made the same statement. A lot of these COs have said that they felt more comfortable and safe around convicts than they did around some of their own coworkers. You ever have moments like that?
Absolutely. I knew when I was walking in that block, not necessarily all of them, but they couldn't stand you. They didn't like you. That game wasn't the same with the officers. They'll stab you in the back in a heartbeat. Or just a matter of them freezing in the moment. Mm-hmm. Where I was in the yard one time, the lights went out. We had a power outage. The lights went out. What do you think the first thing? And not only that, there's 3 officers in there, and I'm one of them. One officer literally went running to the yard door to try to get out.
How many inmates?
Probably 300-something inmates.
300 to 3, no lights.
No lights. And what do you think started getting tossed my way? Anything that could reach. Rocks, anything. Anything. So, but you expect that. As an officer, you expect that. Okay, this shit is going down. Well, guess who the first target is? One of us. Especially if I'm with 2 other shitty officers, or that's why you needed that balance of guys, the officers that were real and could de-escalate and could talk back. There was always a group of guys you have a good rapport with certain inmates, and that's where you got a lot of shit done.
The officers that are being disrespectful are a liability to you because you never know at what point you're going to be in a situation like that. And those are the type of officers that create danger for the other officers. If you have a team of officers that conducts themselves respectfully and, works to de-escalate, you don't have a bad rapport with the inmates. When something like that goes down, I've watched inmates protect officers. I've watched especially convicts protect officers in situations where they were getting beat on, they were getting threatened, they were getting stabbed. But if you have a whole bunch of officers on your squad that are shit eaters to people, then that makes the liability for everybody so much worse.
Yeah, and that's on both ends. That's on both ends, because I have no patience, no tolerance for a shitty officer like that. Like, if the job ain't for you, then own that shit. The job ain't for you, okay? We had a solid block of dudes when I was working there. We were all regulars. We all ran the same, very consistent with each other on how we would do things. You got to give respect to get respect. That shit works on both ends. If you came in right out the gate and you were automatically a dick, you best believe you're going to get that same treatment back towards you. Because now me and you have a rapport. Okay, and here comes, Tommy Toughnuts, new officer, telling you, "Hey, we'll lock the going back and forth," and then you come downstairs to me. Go handle your business. Like, it's a danger to both sides. And actually, I'd like to hear what you have to say, because I heard this when I was a counselor in the prison. A lot of other inmates would go after the inmates that I had a good rapport with, because I was an ex-officer. And they would give them shit. Like, oh, what are you, a CO lover now? What are you dick riding because he's got that? Like, so did you ever experience that?
Well, look, here's the thing is that, the position that I was in, being the person that I was and the organization that I was in, I worked with certain COs. I had a good working relationship with COs. Convicts, real convicts, understand I did the crime. I put myself here. I'm dealing with the consequences of my own actions. I don't blame these men who are here to do their job on a daily basis. Clearly, do you think they want to be there any more than we do? No. So why would I take that out on them? Plus, I had good working relationships. I had COs that were bringing me in things that I wasn't supposed to have, that made it so that I had a much more comfortable lifestyle in there. And particularly with people that are counselors, those people have access to services to help you get established back in the real world, which was my main goal. I wanted to get out and do something different. And did it take me another, over a decade to get my shit together to be able to do? It did. But, you know, eventually I was able to do it, and it was something that I was working for and working towards when I was locked up. You know, I was trying to better myself, but there's a lot of guys who don't have that perspective. There's a lot of dudes that, you know, that's just their life. They're just going to be locked up. They're going to go in and out. They're going to keep feeding the Department of Corrections, you know, industry that is in every state, that is in the feds, you know, that just keeps making people more and more money. And they're just going to live their life doing that. And then when they get out, they're going to victimize more people in their community, and they're going to make for a shittier life for everybody. I didn't want to be a part of that. So what are you doing today that is different? Because you seem like you like the position that you're in now better. Tell us what you're doing with your life now.
So I'm a case manager. And like you said, I provide those services, those guys that get out. You need birth certificate, social security card, ID. I run groups with these guys to try and make them realize that your actions led you here. Let's try and correct those actions so that it's not a repeat. Let's break the cycle. Because that's what I deal with too. A lot of guys that come through our program, that's their life. Their dad was locked up. It was glorified to them. Their dad was locked up. Their uncle was locked up. Their cousins. So they're going into prison knowing all these people through family members. But then at the same time, you want to sit and complain, well, my kids, I'm not there for my kids. So my dad was never there for me as a kid. You know, so break that cycle. Be that difference that this world ultimately needs, because that's how you're going to get to the ultimate end goal. You're going to be able to say, I'm the first in my, you know, family to actually make that change and do what I need to do.
Yeah, be something to be out there for your kids, though. You have to fix yourself before you're any good to your kids. Like, look, man, there's nothing cool about going to prison. There's nothing cool about victimizing your community. Being locked up doesn't make you tough, especially if you have kids. If you're not there and your kids are out there to fend for themselves, that's bitch behavior. I was a bitch for not being there for my son when he needed me. And I regret that. I missed those years in his life, and he missed having a father. But even if I was present until I had fixed myself, I was worthless to him. I had to break the cycles. I had to break the chains of what I had been dealing with and what I had been doing for so many years to be able to be an active and present father in his life. And that's that important work. That's what we have to get back to. And I thank you for the work that you're doing, helping people transition, you know, at least giving them the life skills. People can hand you every single tool that you need to build a house, but unless you're willing to put in the work yourself, it will never get built.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
I appreciate you guys riding out with us. I appreciate you for your time today, Steve. Thank you for being here with us. One love, y'all. Be good or be good at it. We'll see you next time. Been inspected for contraband. You sure you don't want to make sure that I don't have any hidden ingredients?
Own ingredients, because nobody frisked me on the door. So
he's got his own razor blade.
I'm going to use my
fresh
own.
out the razor blade.